War Room, Gwinnett County. The people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County. The people's voice.
Thank you for tuning in to War Room, Gwinnett County. I'm your host, Antonio Jones, and we're back with another exciting episode. It's your first time tuning in. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We like to describe ourselves as the public square, not just for Gwinnett County, but for the state of Georgia as well. There's a lot of breaking news, a lot of things going on, an absolutely exciting week for myself. I guess the last month, to be honest. Yesterday I had the honor of being able to host the Alex Jones show, his fourth hour. And what was so great about that is, he's just a guy that's trying to make a difference, that wants to get the truth out there. And he's dedicated 30 plus years to trying to get the truth out there. And nobody's always right. We know that. But Alex Jones, he's north of 80, 90% of being right. So that's a pretty strong batting average. All right, so today, the title of the show is called Men of Honor. But we are going to tie these things into some of the things that are going on in local and national politics, because we need strong men to stand up right now. That's our biblical purpose, is for men to lead and to protect. So let's start out today with some headlines. President Trump said during an interview with Dr. Phil that God saved him. The quote is, "God saved me." According to Axios, the evil Michigan Democrat Jocelyn Benson is preventing RFK from removing his name from the ballot. Sounds like they're running scared. The California Senate passes a bill to give home loan down payments to illegal aliens. Citizens are complaining that illegals are taking their delivery jobs and their cleaning jobs. Just more liberal insanity. In Gwinnett County, right here in Georgia, the election board voted not to look at the evidence of the election problems and potential fraud that was presented by the Gwinnett Accountability Project. Shout out to Mary Bell and Lisa Rutherford. You guys keep on doing what you're doing. The DNC sues the state of Georgia, the election board, over the reconciliation rule they passed in a 3-2 vote, with the Kemp-appointed chair voting against the rule. Wonder why that is. The Michigan Secretary of State says to local officials, "We will come for you if you refuse to certify the election." Mark Zuckerberg, he turns on the deep state. He's signaling to the globalists that they are in trouble. I don't know how much I believe that he's sorry for what he did, because censoring the speech of American citizens is anti-American, is anti the Constitution. This is how we get the message out to people. And during COVID, look how many people died. If only they had free speech on these platforms. The deep state turns on Kamala Harris. The New York Times calls her weak, phony, and ignorant. CNN calls her shallow. Progressive wage intimidation campaign against the Georgia State Election Board. I wonder why. That rule they passed, the reconciliation rule, that we've gone over a number of times. But if you don't understand what that means, is when you put the ballot in the machine, that number needs to match the number of people that checked in that day to actually vote. And the number of votes inside of that machine need to match those other two numbers. So if 25 people say they checked in, 25 people say they put a ballot in that machine, then there better be 25 ballots in that machine. thousands of unverified voters remain on the voter rolls right here in the state of Georgia. We have some other things that we're going to go through, and we'll dig into some of these things, some of these headlines. But we need people to stay involved in their local politics. But all of this starts right at your home, raising good kids, protecting your family, showing up at school board meetings, finding out what's going on at your city council, joining the planning commission, seeing the projects that they're trying to bring. We talked about some information yesterday on Alex Jones about there was a study in Indiana University, and they basically said, plain as day in their study, that high density housing brings more violent crimes, more robberies, more rapes, just you name it. And if you look around in society, even right here in our county here in Gwinnett, in many places, this stuff is spreading to, you see the high density houses and the apartments. I mean, some of these houses they build and you can stick your hand out the window and high five your neighbor. I mean, it's absolutely insane. My question is, what are our local elected officials thinking by letting this stuff come in? Where's the additional research? How is this going to fare out 3 to 5 or 10 years from now? Is this going to be an asset to the community? Probably not. The World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab has already said there's going to be an angrier world. It's astonishing to me how these guys sit up on these podiums and on these stages, lean back with their screens and stuff behind them, and they just happen to know they're pretty good at predicting stuff. I mean, they're better than a palm reader, to me. I mean, they predicted the pandemic. They had this COVID practice or whatever up in New York. Then all of a sudden the country's locked down for 2 years. Guys, we have to start paying attention, not just locally, but to geopolitics and things that are going on nationally. As I said to a friend of mine a couple of years ago, local politics is now national. There's no way around it. I mean, the stuff it used to be, off in the distance. What's going on in Washington, whatever, you just kind of go and vote for your president and you go back to your regular life. Well, over time, as the government has expanded itself, it has gained more control over the local areas and local jurisdictions. Well, how do they do that? I don't know. Maybe they give them a bunch of COVID money and they open up all these programs. And now your area is dependent on this stuff. And now you got to do what the government says, or they cut your local funding off. So we're waiting on the guest to join here in a second. Let me see if he was able to. Okay. All right. So we're going to have him come on after the break. But the title of the show today is Men of Honor. And we hoping that you guys get something out of what we're going to share with you today. Back in a moment.
Accelerate your business goals and brand presence on the World Wide Web by logging on to SafewayHost.store to purchase domain names, web hosting, email hosting, SSL, and more. We have 24/7 customer service and support available to our clients. Get started today so you can achieve your business goals by increasing your web presence. Log on to SafewayHost.store today. That's SafewayHost.store.
War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice.
All right, guys, thank you guys for sticking around. Quite interesting headlines, with Zuckerberg turning his back on the deep state and, now saying, I was pressured to censor Americans during COVID. Nothing went through this guy's mind to say, you know what, after all this is over, I could possibly be in trouble. I think what it is that they expected the people to fold, run in their corners, and they didn't expect the populace to rise up right now and us really to have a chance. Look at the stuff that Elon Musk is doing with Twitter. His platform is wide open right now. All the praise and adulation that's and love that's coming from people. Hey, thank you for basically obeying the Constitution, which is something that every American, whether you're wealthy or don't have much in the bank, we all should be abiding by the rules and the laws that we're governed by in this country. But before we get into this, let me do a quick plug. Fam USA. Fam USA is a manufacturing facility that makes athletic uniforms, performance wear, and children's apparel. These are all USA-made products. Some of the products they produce are uniforms for basketball, baseball, football, cheerleading, lacrosse, and volleyball. They work with a lot of high schools, middle schools, and recreational sports departments. This is a great fit for teams that are on a budget with a short turnaround time. Their average production is just 3 weeks. Fam USA works with brands that are looking to reshore their apparel production. They've been in business for 32 years. They're located in Snellville. Fam USA Inc. That's 2110 Fountain Square, Snellville, Georgia. And the phone number is 770-982-9913. That's 770-982-9913. 770-982-9913. So if you need like T-shirts or whatever done for a campaign, they pretty much can make anything that comes to apparel. I mean, they do bags. I mean, you name it. Just a bunch of stuff. So our topic today, men of honor. Let's first do this. By definition, a man, according to the dictionary, you have to read these things and verify them now. We got to come up with our own fact checking now, guys. Man, an adult male human being. That's the definition. Okay, so what is a male? Male, that means of or denoting the sex that produces small motile gametes, especially spermatozoa, which a female may be fertilized or inseminated to produce offspring. Let's talk about one of the top inventions was done by a man. Before the invention, the wheel. Before the invention of the wheel in 3500 BC, humans were severely limited in how much stuff we could transport over land and how far. The wheel itself wasn't the most difficult of part of inventing the wheel. When it came time to connect a non-moving platform to a rolling cylinder, things got tricky, according to David Anthony, an emeritus professor of anthropology at Hambrick College. Quote, the stroke of brilliance was the wheel and the axle concept, unquote. Anthony previously told Live Science. But then making it was also difficult. For instance, the holes at the center of the wheels and the ends of the fixed axles had to nearly be perfectly round and smooth. The size of the axle was also a critical factor, and was its snugness inside of the hole. The hard work paid off big time. Wheeled carts facilitated agriculture and commerce by enabling the transportation of goods to and from markets, as well as easing the burdens of people traveling great distances. Now, wheels are vital to our way of life, found in everything from clocks to turbines. So we can't even drive to the show today without a wheel. So I wanted to put that up because men, particularly women, have invented some great things. But I mean, men have, airplanes, just all kinds of things. So our presence, when we get focused, is very significant and is very impactful on life. So let me read through a few things that the Bible have to say about men and fathers. This is from Psalm 103:13. As a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him. Proverbs 23:24. The father of godly children has cause for joy. What a pleasure to have children who are wise. Colossians 3:21. Fathers, do not provoke your children, lest they become discouraged. Ephesians 6:4. Fathers, don't exasperate your children by coming down hard on them. Take them by the hand and lead them in the way of the master. Hebrews 12:7-11. Be patient when you are being corrected. This is how God treats his children. Don't all parents correct their children? God corrects all of his children. And if he doesn't correct you, then you really don't belong to him. Our earthly fathers correct us, and we still respect them. Isn't it even better to be given true life by letting our spiritual father correct us? Our human fathers correct us for a short time, and they do it as they think best. But God corrects us for our own good, because he wants us to be holy as he is. It is never fun to be corrected. In fact, at the time, it is always painful. But if we learn to obey by being corrected, we will do right and live at peace. And last, Deuteronomy 11:1. Love the eternal God, your God. Always obey his requirements, regulations, judgments, and commands. Let what I'm saying sink deeply into your hearts and soul. Do whatever it takes to remember what I'm telling you. Tie a reminder on your hand or put a reminder on your forehead where you'll see it all the time, and on the doorstep where you cross the threshold, or on the city gate. Teach these things to your children. Talk about them when you're sitting together in your home and when you're walking together down the road. Make them the last thing you talk about before you go to bed and the first thing you talk about the next morning. That way, you and your children will be blessed with long life, abundant crops among the ground, the eternal promise to your ancestors, for as long as there's sky above the earth. So those are very profound, as many verses are in the Bible. I guess we've alienated those things, obviously, because we see how things are playing out in the public right now. I mean, you can judge a tree by the fruit. I mean, we see a lot of the way that people act in general, but children act in particular. And if we don't get back to this, and it starts in each and every household, then, I mean, so we can forget about society. I mean, the work we do here at War Room, all that's great. We have a lot of great guests that come on and features and everything. We show up and I say a speech and, different ones go here. This one runs for office. But this all goes back to how we're raising our children. These are the seeds, and it's a reflection of who we are. I mean, look at the difference and the contrast between Joe Biden and his kids and President Trump and his kids. And we know the Bible tells us there's no one perfect, no, not one of us. But there is a clear contrast between the two. So do we really want somebody running our country like Joe Biden? I don't think, I don't believe the 2020 election was legitimate, but just general. I don't see how people could support someone like him and Kamala Harris. I mean, look at both of the kids and stuff. I saw the pictures and everything. There's no attack on them, but I mean, it is what it is. All right. So, one more point, and then let's go through one more thing, and we'll have our guests come on. All right. So here are some of the effects of growing up without a father. Okay. And it can also mean a father's there, but he's not doing his job. So let's not get these things here crossed up, because there are fathers that are living in homes and they're not present. Okay. So the effects of growing up without a dad: the kids are more likely to be aggressive, more likely to be depressed, more likely to have low self-esteem, more likely to do poorly in schools, more likely to be incarcerated and to commit suicide, more likely to use drugs. They're more likely to be aggressive. Let's talk about some of that. The psychological studies show that children growing up without fathers are more likely to be aggressive and quick to anger. This person that's writing this, I guess, grew up without a father, so they're giving a little bit of context. So they said for them, they've always had a copious amount of anger, not just loud anger, but quiet anger too as well. Teens growing up without a father are more susceptible to emotional distress. This person says that this was a hard subject for them to discuss because it forces them to recall very dark times. Men, good men, Bible believing Christian fathers are very key and very important. I won't go through all of these. Let me see if I can get the guest in here, and that's Baron Reinhold. Do we have a crisis on our hands right now? And I wanted to do this show today because God is one of order, okay? And he set forth for men to do their jobs and to lead. So I wanted to go through, some stuff that fathers have accomplished. We've invented many things, but God has an order for us. Does it appear to be a crisis as far as fathers being involved with what you see in society right now, nowadays?
Yeah. I mean, thanks for having me on again, Antonio. Yeah, absolutely. The Word of God, says that it's all that's needed for life and godliness. That wisdom is the knowledge of God is the beginning of wisdom. Apart from it, we just do foolish things. And so you look at society spinning out of control, and they're just making stuff up as they go along. And the ramifications of being foolish have rippling effects, obviously throughout society. When you get generation after generation of saying that men are irrelevant, and that we've had decades and decades of TV and sitcoms where the male who used to be kind of the my three sons and imparting wisdom on the family, and those types of father figures going into the kind of the Al Bundy and the goofball and someone to be laughed at and disrespected. I mean, you just see the evolution of something that's completely antithetical to biblical teaching. And so anytime you reject God's word, you do so at your own peril. And that's at the individual level, that's at the family level, community and national level. And everything is an outgrowth of basically defying God. And you just look at what's going on today, and these all of these people that are rejecting God, and you can see all the statistics that you started talking about are an outgrowth of that.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about this today because in part of we cover a lot of political stuff on the platform, but we also have to engage the culture on some levels. And at the very heart and the fabric of that, there's not going to be any order if we don't have men of honor, and that's why I titled it that way, because that's what we need to get to. What's the chances of some kid out in California running through, smashing windows, seeing how he can steal up, or he or she can steal up to, $999, right before the cutoff of getting arrested? What's the chance of them having a good father in the home?
Well, I think, before you even go into that, we should define terms, because terms are important. What is a man of honor? What you defined what a man is, a biological man, which obviously, society now, in the past few years has rejected that, again, which is insane because that's biology. And obviously, the Bible defines that clearly. But honor, what is an honorable man? I mean, if we can't even define a man, how do you define something that's honorable? So, I would define that if we're going to, define our terms.
Let's talk about that then. Give us your definition of a man of your definition of a man of honor.
Well,
Baron.
Yeah, I would say, it's somebody who acts according to their worldview, and their worldview is rock solid. So, I'm a Bible believing Christian. I believe that the Bible is the inspired word of God, and that as a disciple of Christ, I'm supposed to know the Bible inside and out. I'm supposed to think through things based on Scripture. So, in one sense, in a very real sense, all of my actions should be guided by by, a Bible verse or a slew of Bible verses. Now, am I going to do that perfectly? No. Does anybody do that perfectly? No. But a man of honor is somebody who knows what they believe and acts, accordingly, and doesn't make excuses when they fall short. They repent and ask for forgiveness, to the person offended and to God, and they, they press on. And so, that's what people, men of integrity, men of honor, uh, see, that they're not the center of the universe. That, we talked a little bit yesterday, the Bible says no servant can serve two masters. So, if you're serving God, if you say that you're serving God, then, just like you said earlier, every good tree must produce good fruit. So
That's right.
we
So,
believe, I believe that,
what we're seeing now, I'm stating the obvious to some in politics is there's a lot of godless people because like you carry what you believe everywhere you go. It's not like a jacket that you take off when you go in the back room at some board meeting or, if you're down at the Capitol at Georgia legislating and carrying on, you're not taking that off. This is supposed to be a part of who you are. And I just don't see many men of honor working in our government. And if we don't stand up, rise up right now and start back taking these positions, and I know that at the heart of this is election integrity because this is how we are able to remove these folks. And if that's not right, then we won't be able to just be, people are, there are a lot of people that have depravity or depraved minds, but the average person, when they start looking at that grocery store bill or their kids getting beat up in the bathroom, down the street at the local school, and the school board people are saying, well, we think we need to let those two kids have a meeting. And if somebody if the guy, whoever beat the other person up apologizes, then we're not going to suspend them. This is the kind of stuff that they got going on right here in our county with this like restorative practice. I just don't think people are, maybe some people are that dumb or crazy, but the average person is not going to keep supporting this foolishness. Like I said when we was on the show yesterday, a lot of people that's partaking in the culture. I'm on a lot of black blogs and things like that, so I'm kind of reading what's going on. And my wife reads them too. And a lot of people, they're just not buying the rhetoric that's coming out now. People are looking to do something different. But if that election process is not right, then we won't be able to remove these people. Like you say, it's the voter box, it's the jury box, right? And then you got the ammo box. We're not trying to make it to that point, Baron.
Yeah, no, it's spot on. Although I would say that correcting what you said, that there's godless people out there. That's not true. Everybody has a God. It's just a question of who.
It might be a small G.
Yeah.
Small G.
Exactly.
So Baron, let me see what else did I have. So we've just got to get back to having men and one of the guests that's gonna come on after you happen to be reading this book about that very thing. We need some good, strong men. Women do a great job. I have a amazing respect for women and what they do. But God called us to lead, in this time right now. And I'm talking about this because people that say they have courage, that's serving in public offices and stuff like that, if they don't fear God more than they fear man, it's worthless. That's why we're doing this show today, because anybody that's representing you, try to get a good, strong, Bible-believing Christian elected, because they're going to fare better because they have a God, the God of the Bible, who created the universe. They fear them more than they do man. So when all these backroom meetings and stuff is happening, they'll stand on that. They'll stand on the word. They know their real purpose. They have someone higher than man to answer to. What say you, Baron?
Well, that I agree in principle with what you're saying. Certainly, the reality is, there's a lot of people that say that they're Christians, and And the reality is, again, actions speak louder than words. We don't know people's hearts, but certainly, the Bible again talks about, by their fruits you'll know them, and that every good tree must produce good fruit. So, you can profess all you want. You can be a TV evangelist and have a huge, church congregation, but if your life, bears fruit that, states otherwise, then, you have no business believing that you're actually a saved, individual and that your eternity is secure in heaven. So, um, saying it and doing it is something very, very different. And it's interesting because we do live in a time which is very strange. In the military, it's gotten progressively more and more kind of insane. But the reality is every individual, well, I shouldn't say, but nearly every individual in leadership universally respects people who say the truth, who can be completely dependent upon, who don't backstab, who are extremely diligent, and so they may be as pagan can be, but they respect the traits and the commands that an actual Christian trying to serve the Lord, those are endemic in who they are. Not perfectly, but that's the who they are as an individual. So I throughout most of my career, I saw the strongest Christians being ranked very, very highly in their units. But now you kind of see what's going on, and if you actually say that and actually attribute things to Christ or to your beliefs, I can see that as people having retribution and everything else. And I actually talk to a lot of people nowadays who have experienced that.
Yeah. But it's fine for, well, I know I'm preaching to the choir right now. It's okay to have promote LGBT and trans and all of that, but you can't say you're a Christian. You might not get hired. You might not get promoted.
Yeah. I mean,
and
it's been building for a while. I mean, when I was
yeah.
when I was a commander and a captain, young captain in the Navy, I got I've got invited, so to speak, expected to be at the Pride Month stuff and whatever they were throwing on base. And I
Wait,
told
so Barrett, you didn't pull out your rainbow shirt?
no, I just told
Hey, dude, that was your opportunity. You didn't take it.
I just told the admiral that I wasn't going to be there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get
So,
questions on it.
but
Sometimes
what could be going through like an admiral's mind to believe that promoting that which has already been classified as a mental condition in a place like the military?
well, that's
I
the
mean,
thing. We don't have people of principle, again, because you don't have people pushing back on when things cross an absolute standard because they don't believe in an objective truth. We as Christians should believe in objective truth, which is found in Scripture, rightly interpreted. When you don't have that, then then everything is pragmatism. That you'll flex to whatever your boss wants you to do because you don't have anything to say. Well, I won't do that. I'll resign my commission before I do what you're asking me to do because it's morally and ethically bankrupt. We don't see any flag officers doing that, any generals or admirals. I mean, none of them did that during COVID, which was insane. I mean, that's a gross violation of the Nuremberg Code of experimenting on human beings, let alone all of your national security, your entire military. And not one of them pushed back and said, I won't do this. I will tender my resignation before doing this. Every single admiral and general in the entire DOD went along with human experimentation. And that's unconscionable. But in order to stand on principle, you have to have principle. And in order to be, your topic today, in order to be a man of integrity and a man of principle, then you have to know what you believe and you have to act accordingly. And it isn't, it isn't, subjective; it's objective. In our world, that's what we believe.
and it has to be done when it counts. It's like the kudos again to the. I call them the at the Georgia State Election Board. I call them the SCB Big Three. They did something in a difficult time, and look at all of the heat that they're getting. And this is, I guess, in the military. I didn't go to the military, but I would assume when you go through training, it's for a time when it's difficult. You're just not running through drills and getting up at 4:30 a.m. To just be going through the motion. They're preparing them physically and mentally to make a hard decision. And the reason why I wanted to do this broadcast today is because, again, we need men particularly, but men and women, if a woman's going to serve or whatever she's going to do, you got to do it in crunch time. I mean, you told us about the one lady that decided to resign. I guess she was on the cover of some magazine because she was like, look, this is not ethically correct. Yeah. And I'm not going to follow through with your tyranny here. And we need people like that in government, in everywhere, in every household, in every community that's going to do the right thing. Otherwise, we get what we get. We've got crime and everything running rampant, and people just don't respect anybody anymore. We need men to step up and do their jobs and do it when it's hard. One of the verses I read alluded to that. So Baron, before we let you go, if you had a room full of men, maybe like 200-300 or 2,000-3,000 men, with the time that we're living in, what would you tell them? And then we'll go from there. Well, what would you tell them?
I would condense down my last tour in the Navy. I was the commanding officer of 6 units, Georgia Tech, Georgia State. Oops. Am I still on?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, that was my phone connected to my computer. But so I taught leadership and ethics, and every day in class we asked, what's right and how do you know? 6 major universities, 3 historically black colleges, and 3 major state universities. And I would always get around to the same thing. If you don't believe in objective truth, then you've got nothing to stand on. You've got no basis to say what's right and what's wrong, because rightness or wrongness, goodness and badness, require a standard in which to judge what is good and what is bad and what is right and what is wrong. So the question ultimately is, what's the standard? And again, as a Christian, I absolutely believe that it's the Word of God. So in order to live a life that is worthy of the calling, you have got to know the Word of God. You've got to know your calling. You've got to know what's right and what's wrong. You've got to know what advice to give a child. You've got to know how to stand on principle. You stand on principle by not defying the Word of God. So
and the Word of God is natural law. He created nature. So for the people that may be watching this, saying, oh, they're just throwing God, and God created everything. I mean, he's the ultimate of the ultimates. Okay. But for those of you who may not believe, then you don't know what you may believe in, but even the laws of nature, he made those. So, we know what's right. We know what is wrong. God gave all of us a conscience. It's a part of our DNA. And right now we need people to stand up in government and offices. And that's it, right. If you go on, and I hate to beat on the governor, but y'all do this yourself. I was going to pull it up or whatever, but go on Twitter, go on X, pull up whatever Brian Kemp just last tweeted. If every 10 messages you can find at least 5, I'll pay you that says something positive. Everybody is livid because people are not fools. They understand, they know what they see. They know what has not been done here in our state. And we don't know completely why. There's some speculations, but I have my beliefs of why things may not have been done from the top brass. But this doesn't look like integrity to me at all, because the people are not stupid. Look at all the evidence. There's people putting boxes of evidence in his office. The attorney general has not really acted. This is all a leadership problem. This all goes back to, there's not a man of honor. I just believe they bring a lot of wonder in people's minds of who they really are. Because right now what's going on in Georgia with our election process, people are not comfortable with what's happening. And I don't believe we have overall a lot of men of honor serving in our state government.
Well, and I guess, to jump back in and to kind of close out, if you were trying to wrap it up, I would say that, you know, again, it goes back into a belief in a sovereign God and actually what that looks like. So if you believe in the sovereignty of God, you don't have to worry about, what men will say, what, the police will say, what the FBI will say, what anybody says. You worry about doing what's right and let God worry about the outcome. So it frees you up to live a very, yeah, I'm not saying that bad things can't happen to you, but it frees you up to do the right thing when you also believe that God ultimately controls what is or isn't going to happen to you. He controls, we believe that he controls how many breaths you're going to take, and that's known to him and prescribed before you're born. You're not going to take one more or one less. You're not going to have, you are going to breathe the exact number of breaths that he's prescribed to you. And you don't know if that's going to end on this show or if you're going to live to 100 years old. So don't worry about, well, what if, what if the ceiling falls in? What if, the war breaks out? It doesn't matter what if. You worry about what's right every day and let God worry about the rest of it. And that's actually pretty freeing.
It is.
It's not easy.
It takes a lot of, the Bible say, let him provide the increase for whatever we do. And like you said, we're not going to take any one extra breath than he hadn't already prescribed for us to be taken anyway. Baron, let the people know how to follow you and everything like that and get in touch with you if they need to.
Well, I've got to kind of retool all my sites because they were all, when I was running for sheriff, they're all Baron for Gwinnett, which is still up. The Gmail and my.
I mean, you still for Gwinnett, right? I mean, absolutely, you for good things, all right? Yeah.
But yeah, if anybody wants to drop me a note, Baron for Gwinnett at Gmail is there, and my phone number is still out there, 402-960-6645. I get texts and calls all the time from folks, bouncing stuff off me. So,
hey, you know what? We was joking about being on the Alex Jones show yesterday. We already done said we gonna be roommates when they come lock us all up. And a good friend of ours said he got a cash bail for us, so we ain't got to worry about nothing.
Yeah.
All right, man. So, Baron, thank you for stopping by, man. It's always a pleasure.
I appreciate the time. Thanks.
All right, guys. That was Baron Reinhold, just a great guy considered definitely a man of honor and very humble, God-fearing guy, and knows what good leadership should look like. All right, so coming up next, we're going to go back to the headlines that I named, and I'm going to bring in some good in-studio guests that we have that came by War Room to hang out with us. Back in a moment.
Accelerate your business goals and brand presence on the World Wide Web by logging on to SafewayHost.store to purchase domain names, web hosting, email hosting, SSL, and more. We have 24/7 customer service and support available to our clients. Get started today so you can achieve your business goals by increasing your web presence. Log on to SafewayHost.store today. That's SafewayHost.store.
War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice.
All right, thank you guys for sticking around. The show today, Men of Honor. So, having said that, I got a couple special guests that came to hang out with me. These are guys that I know that are men of honor too, as well. Great fathers, great businessmen, and they just check off all the boxes. And again, I wanted to do this show. I know we cover a lot of politics and everything like that, but we need to start dealing with the foundation of some of the issues that we are seeing playing out in society. And we need men of honor. We do. And we've got to get back to that, and we've got to celebrate that idea, not just because it's the right thing to do, but this is how God ordered everything. And if we don't have good godly men as a foundation, it's just going to fall apart. And we need to be advocating and supporting good men and good women, but good men in particularly at all times. So let me pull these guys in if I can. If I can hit the button, my producer, but Barron's my producer. He got named that by one of the guests we had on here one time. It was pretty interesting. Let me see, y'all. Okay, there we go. All right, so we got Roy Hambrick of Small Town Underground, and we got Justice Nwaigwe. Is that did I get that right?
Close enough.
Nwaigwe.
Yeah.
All right, so I got these two gentlemen in. So, guys, y'all heard some of the conversation with Barron in regards to men of honor and just where we're at nowadays. So, Roy, what are your thoughts? Do we need more men to just kind of step up and do what they're supposed to do? I mean, we talk politics and stuff, on and offline all the time. But just what are what's your 30,000-foot thoughts on what you heard?
All right. Well, thank you. This is my first time being in here. I appreciate you inviting me, and you and Barron did an excellent job representing us on InfoWars. That was awesome. I really, Barron kind of nailed it, spot on in so many ways. I think a lot of a man of honor, of course, is a man who's willing to have a family and stand up for that family through thick and thin. Always try to abide by the rule of law. The morals and the values should be instilled in your family life, for your children, for the people around you at work. The integrity is a huge issue. To be a man of honor, you should have integrity, and also accountability. Right. So many times the culture that we live in now, especially this TikTok culture, this social media age, we've lost accountability where everybody just thinks that it's you can always point the finger in another direction. It's never your fault. Nobody does any self-reflection. And I think a man of honor is constantly reflecting on himself and his situation. And we should always strive to take ourselves and our emotions out of any given situation, because I think that's one thing that is dishonorable when it becomes an emotional situation all the time, and your mind can't function properly and see things for what they are. And so all of those things, along with what Barron said, are to me a man of honor, and we should always strive for that, and we should help lift other men up and become honorable and be the examples.
So let's tie that in too, because we talk a lot of politics. So you said people should be open. They should be open to accountability and looking at themselves in the mirror, basically. So we live in a political culture nowadays to where if you say something constructive criticism about a candidate, or if you question them, then you have like packs of people come after you. How in the world did we get like that? I mean, I say this all the time. We'll sit up and watch the Georgia football game, and we're yelling at the television, throwing stuff, when the quarterback throws an interception, but with some guy down at the Georgia legislature just put a vote in to rob you out of your money or something like that, people get mad if you say, I mean, how did we get here, Roy?
Oh, well, it's one big thing. It's the capital M, the money word. I mean, it's bread and circus. They are trying to control us every way they can. They want us constantly looking the other way. It's what you always say, the big club. It's a well-established, oiled machine. It's not just here in Georgia. It's the way politics are set up. It's a complex system. It's pay to play, and the only way you can get in is by serving another master. And so that's how a lot of these things work. And so government is tight-knit. and well established. Everybody gets a cut of the money, and they don't want you peeking in and looking and seeing what they've got going on. And they've been able to get away with it for decades. And now you enter the information age, technology. We all are connected so much more than we are, and folks start seeing, hey, I can't pay these taxes. You're going to raise my taxes 20% every year until I can't buy groceries. What's going on? And then you kind of realize it's a facade. And breaking into that establishment club, they don't like that at all. So, of course, they're going to try to ostracize you any way they can. They're not going to be kind to you peeking in and wanting to see the papers and the evidence. It's just this one big, I call it a clown show. It's just a clown show, and politics are far, far dirtier than I've ever imagined just being into this.
So could that be one of the main driving things that potentially could have, why they got rid of the first vice chair here in Georgia? Just in your view, I mean, it existed. I talked to some people, and we have different opinions and everything on that, but the process in which that particular thing was done, I just don't think that part of it was ethical. But
sure, I mean, we're down to like elementary school semantics with all this, and when the grassroots have broken that halo completely away from establishment politics, right? Through especially in Georgia, Marjorie Greene becoming one of the first like real grassroots candidates several years ago that just kind of broke it wide open. And now you have all these factions in the Republican Party. You've got what they call the rhinos, you've got the MAGAs, you've got the establishments. And so something like that, well, they are the rule keepers. They hold the key to all this. So things can happen when they want them to happen. They don't always abide by the rules. They don't always go by the playbook. It's all according to what their needs are at that time, And there you have, again, another squabble, that two different sides of the coin. Neither are enemies, nor, and it's unfortunate to see. I say so many times, why can't these people sit down face to face in a room with each other and talk?
Yeah.
And it seems so many times it's never like that,
So let Justice jump in here. What are your thoughts on what you've heard, with me and Barron, and what you just heard as far as Men of Honor and how all this ties in together?
Well, first of all, thank you, Antonio, for inviting me to War Room headquarters here in the studio.
Right.
First time here, beautiful setup. I appreciate the invitation. You thinking about me for this conversation. So I think Roy had a great point about accountability. I would say accountability, or the ability to hold yourself accountable and taking ownership for decisions you make or decisions you did not make, all are a core piece that'll help perpetuate growth in a man. The other three pieces that I think are critical for a man of honor are responsibility, sacrifice, and discipline. And how those things show up is responsibility comes down to essentially responsibility for others. And there is just a point when a man goes from a boy to a man in a sense of maturity where that's what fulfills them, right? So to give you a perspective, a boy is fulfilled by getting what they want, self-interest essentially. A man will see a lot more fulfillment from being responsible for others and have pride points in helping others. That's what fulfills them. So that responsibility piece is there. And that'll tie right back into sacrifice and discipline, right? Because essentially what you're doing is your wants, your needs, your desires are essentially on hold indefinitely for the greater good of others, right? And that's going back to that service mindset of responsibility. But it takes a lot of discipline as well. You have to have a lot of sense of self-discipline. And again, going back to Roy's point, accountability, to be able to do that consistently. And those are things that are certainly missing. So with those pieces, I think a lot of people will follow that until what I'm about to say next may change people's mind. How this ties into, let's say, a man like Donald Trump, right? When you think about what most people get into politics for, the vast majority of people are in it for money, power, respect, or all three, right? Well, essentially in this case, Donald Trump had those things for decades before he entered the political arena. In fact, he ended up losing money and power and respect by entering the political arena. That goes back to my mind as personal sacrifice. And why is he doing it? I'm not inside the man's mind. I can't tell you. But I can say from a third-party perspective, his livelihood for himself would have been a lot better off had he not played the political game, right? Because it requires a great degree of sacrifice, which you've seen him go under pressure for the DOJ, respect, being attacked constantly, and he could have lived without that, but he chose not to.
And getting shot.
That's right.
Get taken a bullet.
Correct, right? Those are all things he would have never endured had he not decided to take a step in that direction. So the question I want to think about is, did he potentially have the opportunity to gain more money by our respect to become president? The answer every single time is no, in my opinion. It always goes the other way.
Yeah, and it's wild because people have argued that point with me. Trump's trying to get power. He's like this big control freak, and it's like, dude, to going from Donald Trump's position that he works to running the United States government is the equivalent of saying, hey, you know what, I want to, and this is no respect to people who run hamburger joints, but I think I'm going to get a career of being a manager down at McDonald's. The mess and all the stuff that comes along with mitigating problems when you're already a billionaire. It's crazy. But I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, Jess.
No, and I think the other point Roy made earlier about emotions, that's another staple of being an honorable man, is having control over your emotions. And again, you're going to have emotions, but having control is the key. And understanding, okay, when you're in a situation where you're emotionally conflicted, you need to sit down and let time pass before you make any kind of real decisions. And that's one thing real make. They'll understand we're in that position, and they'll step away when they need to. But the majority of what I see are males making emotional decisions, which is very disappointing. And it's unfortunately the cultural norm now. And again, Roy pointed out, the media, and media is all-inclusive, social, commercial, the whole nine. That's what makes it so prevalent. And Tony, you made a great point earlier about talking about the Georgia football game versus what legislation is being passed underneath the Gold Dome. Well, what's more easily accessible to you, right? You have these things pushed to your phone. You're being targeted based on what you like, your propensity to actually buy something. It's being hand-fed to you, right? So you actually have to do physical work to find out what you talked about, Jody, about what's legislation being passed, what's in the bill, why is the bill 286 pages, right? Those things will not be pushed to you, and you have to do work and a lot of legwork to figure that stuff out, and that's the more meaningful things that I think need to have time spent on them.
That's right.
Agreed.
You got something, Roy?
Well, I'd like to just touch on his point. You think back, hindsight's always 20/20. Donald Trump was loved and adored by everybody, every race, every creed, every color. He was the epitome of what the poster child person of what we all wanted to be. And the moment that he came down that elevator and declared presidency, overnight it turned on him to he is evil. I think that points to a bigger picture in our culture and society that it's very well controlled, and that was not a part of the plan. See, and there is a plan to, I don't know if you want to say ruin this nation, but there's definitely a plan to change humanity as we know it, and Donald Trump wasn't a part of that.
Oh, without a doubt. I was listening to, we'll come back to what you just was saying, but I was listening to a sermon. Jennison Franklin has done a series or something recently, and I don't listen to his stuff regularly, but somebody tagged me on something on Facebook and said, hey, you need to hear this. And it was talking about just that. In order for the New World Order, the cashless society, and all this stuff to roll, they have to destroy America.
Absolutely.
And that's why this is so dangerous right now. And just from a biblical aspect, people are, God, we know God can use anybody, but it's obvious that Trump not getting in the last 4 years was to wake a lot more people up. Now, I don't know what's going to come out of it. I pray for grace and mercy for this nation because we've turned our backs as a whole at large on him. But the Bible says if my people shall turn and repent, and he'll heal our land. But America, like you were saying, it can't survive in order for the New World Order to roll on, Roy.
No. And when you talk about men of honor, our societies now are geared toward dishonor. Everything that you see, for example, your show here, the things that we do, we've stepped out of our comfort zone. We're stepping out of our bread and circus because we realize what we need to do in order to kind of save our culture and our country. Yet everything is designed towards viral sensations and doing some of the dumbest things, and that our children are watching, that we end up down in these rabbit holes watching this useless information in our heads. And like you just said, the complexity of even looking up a bill. I mean, a perfect example. You'll look up a bill, and our state government uses the exact same bill number for a completely different bill the next year. Why are all these things so complex? Why do they not want you looking into this? It's very simple. They don't want they don't want the accountability. They don't want the transparency. It's just a big club, and it's really crazy when you start going down the levels of like politics and you really see the dishonor going on in our government. It's rampant.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, and that's why we gotta keep doing what we're doing and staying engaged, having these conversations and engaging people in the uncomfortable moments. Yes. Back to the biblical tenets. I need to do a better job at reading the Word every day, but the training of it is training part is the reading, but also trying to live your life in the right way. And we have to engage the culture, and it gets very uncomfortable. Like my friend of mine from college is one I've been trying to work on, and I'm thinking like, dude, we played on the same team. We won championship twice together in college, and we had to do what was hard. So how in the world did you go from this work and get it to make it happen mentality to like being a victim? You've got a degree in physical therapy. You go out, you do your own thing, and you're still like a mental slave to the system. I mean, it's the brainwash is incredible.
Yes,
it is incredible.
Well, I've lost a lot of friends in the last few years, and were they really friends? I don't know. Because sooner or later, the truths that we are all looking for and are playing out. Right, you said it. It was so hard for me sometimes to. I'm not a smart person. I'm well educated, but to live in this sort of idiocracy daily and the things that we take in, and we're like, how on earth is this upside down? It has to happen so more people can understand that and get on the level to where they realize just what is at stake here. But yeah, I mean, I'm with open arms. Come back and get into the fold, because this facade is not going to last.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible.
Well, you mentioned losing a lot of friends, right? And from my perspective, that falls in the category of sacrifice, right?
Sure.
Sacrifice relationship that you've had for X amount of years. But at the end of the day, when a man of honor is firm on his beliefs and what he stands on, they're not going to bend, right?
That's right.
And if people truly love you and you're part of their circle, so to speak, then that'll continue to be the truth. If not, then maybe it just wasn't meant to be.
Sure.
But that sacrifice piece is what I think is constantly overlooked from real men of honor, is they are okay making those sacrifices for the greater good, for a bigger cause, to reveal truths that need to be heard. But that's the hardest part. And Tony mentioned brainwashing, right? The biggest thing that is hurtful to somebody is to realize they've been a fool.
Yes.
That's
right?
true.
So when you're essentially trying to tell somebody something about themselves or about a truth that is the counter to what they believe, you're essentially about to break down their whole entire ego.
Yes.
And their brain, their self-preservation of self is not going to let you do that, at least peacefully.
Yeah.
100%.
Right? So that's the biggest thing we got to try and account for, is you have to think about it from a greater scale. It's not about you and your belief. It's about just the bigger picture, the truth. And most people that I discuss things with like this, I don't go very far in the argument, right? Because I know where it's going to go. And people that truly know me know I'm just very transparent, very honest. I'm going to tell you what it is, and it's up to you to take and do with it what you want.
Right. I really like what you're saying there, because I want to go back just a little bit. When they echo chambers, it's like a psyop, really, echo chambers. When they were really pushing that a couple of years ago, but you nailed it on the head, because people are going to wake up. They're going to change their beliefs, their ideology on their own time. It's like a drug addict or somebody who is addicted to something. You the old saying, you lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But I really believe that they ran a psyop, because I realize over this journey that I'm on that it's okay not to push what you're talking about on other people, but yet let it grow organically. Let it grow in a place just like a flower, right? You don't plant a flower in a rock. You plant a flower in the soil, in a garden. And let those people come. And it doesn't always have to be about politics. We have to give them time and on their time, because you're going to, like you said, you're going to crush somebody.
Yeah.
So,
but the scary part about it is the time clock. You know, I know people come to, just like God has to save us. We don't save ourselves. We have to accept the free gift that He gives us. And I think some of us are in a position, and I guess I can speak for myself, it's like an outcry. It's like you're going off the cliff right now. So I might have to yank you, and explain it to you later. It's just some of us get in that position. I know politics, different things are different, but I do feel like the country is going off the cliff, and I just feel myself trying to grab for people. But like you say, some people, we don't want them to pull us off the cliff, into a bad direction. So It's a lot of different decisions that are being made, last minute. So, it's just a different perspective. I don't know what you guys think on that.
No, I think exactly right. And I want to highlight the analogy that Roy made about an addict, right? If you've ever spoken to an addict, they might not necessarily know they have a real problem, but something they may say is, I could quit at any time. I just want to do it, right? And they believe it's their choice.
Yes.
They believe, I just want to. I like doing it. And they have no idea the control they're under, right? So I think from the outside looking in, you could tell them, but from their purview, their worldview, they're like, no, this is what I want to do. They don't realize their choice is not their choice in that particular situation. But looking in from the outside to them, it's tough. And I'll just bring up a small situation. I want to put my daughter on blast, but she was just dating a young fellow, which I was on the outside looking in. And, anybody in a relationship, when they're in that honeymoon phase, everything is great and they could do no wrong. But when you're an experienced person from the outside looking, you could tell them what's happening. They won't listen to you.
Right.
But when stuff hits the fan, it happens. It's one of those moments where you don't want to say, I told you so, but it's a learning moment for them.
Yeah.
And they could grasp that reality, and they could start to trust you more and say, okay, I know you were looking out for me. Now I'm aware.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a beautiful thing, is that breakthrough.
And that's why one of the biggest things is humility.
Yeah.
Every championship team that I've ever played on, that has always been at the heart of what the coach talked to us about. It was always about humility, because if a guy can go out here and make a bad play or not do what the coach said, he has to have humility to take the criticism and the scrutiny. It goes back to that what Justice just said. We have to become a society, and I know this is hard. This is very hard. We have to become a society that has humility, or people that are in our circles, because people will, y'all see it on social media all the time. People are, they might be lauding this, like taunting this person, be like, oh yeah, this person, and then the person just like fall off the map. And you were like, well, this person ain't posted in a while. And you know why? Because they was wrong about everything that you've been saying. And it's done all came out now. Yep. Instead of people getting on and say, that's why sometimes if I'm not sure about something on a post, it's just me. Some stuff I hope I'm wrong on, and I'll say it. Sure. And some stuff I say, hey, I could be wrong. And we have to get back to being able to say, hey, I was wrong about that. And that's why the Bible tells us pride comes before destruction, because a person will, the last thing that they want to hear is somebody say, man, I told you. And see, I think my friend in college might have that problem, because he's a logical guy until he's not logical,
I have an analogy that I like to use, especially when we're talking politics, right? But, and I've seen this so many times, because we have to communicate and we have to discuss. And I say, everybody agrees that the school bus is yellow, but nobody can agree on the particular shade of yellow. And that's where I see ourselves so many times. You can be in a group of like-minded people. You can have these conversations. You say one thing that somebody disagrees with, and then it's like cut off. That is
You're done. Let's get rid of Roy.
It's the most destructive thing to the movement, especially in grassroots. We have to kind of get past that and let people speak. Let people have these their thoughts and ideas and discuss them. That's the only way we learn from here. That's the only way we learn where we're going. And so much of that has been lost in so many groups. So that's part of being an honorable man. You should be able to listen. Take it 100%. In and let people speak.
Well, humility is at the top of that list.
Yes,
sure.
Man of honor. Humility is at the core of that, because that's how you learn.
That's
because you're not gonna have the humility to be able to go and ask questions and say, "Hey, I ask questions all the time." My wife will tell you, I ask questions like in a minute just to find out. Hey, Roy, how did you do that right there? Or teach me about that. Or, hey, when can I come over? Hey, you riding the tractor this week? Or whatever you doing. Right. I've asked guys, say, man, you riding that Bobcat this weekend. Let me come over there and learn how to ride, because that's one of the things I want to learn how to do. And that's how you learn. You have to be humble,
Yep.
I think that humility is one of those things that's, again, not prevalent enough, because most men that want to, I guess I'll say, lead, want to lead at all costs. When you got to realize you have strengths and you have opportunities, right? And if somebody else in the room has a greater strength than you in a particular area, they need to lead that. But a lot of men, I guess it goes to all humans, have very fragile egos, and they want to prove to themselves or the whole world that they could do anything at all times, when that's just not humanly possible. So, Tony, you're right, the humility is key. Yeah,
and we see that a lot too, Roy. And in politics, particularly, people they out of place. And we all have talents that was given to us, and I respect other people's talent in a minute. Wife would tell you, I'll try to learn how to do everything, but I know my limits. My wife would be like, "Well, why didn't you?" It's like, I'm calling somebody. I'm gonna hire somebody. Then again, other people need to let their lights and shine, and people see the flowers bloom with them. It shouldn't all be about just one person and this person. And see, when you focus and let God provide the increase, it takes all. Me and Roy talk about this offline all the time. It takes a lot of pressure off of you, because now all of a sudden you're not really worried about how many clicks you got in YouTube's. And data points, all that stuff is important.
Yeah.
But you're not looking at your colleagues as your competition. And we have those problems inside of all kinds of organizations, but especially in politics. You got to know what your talent is too, and respect other people's talents. What say you, Roy?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I started this thing. I found a podcast machine for $20 at a trade day, and didn't know what I was going to do with it, and just progressed from there. So I'm just going through, because I want to be honest. A lot of people know this, but I grew up in church most of my life. I was one of the only members of my own family that sought out church, but I'm also a bail bondsman. Well, I became an atheist, in my early 20s. For a long time, I gave up on God because I saw so many things and couldn't understand the humanity and behind it. Child molestation cases, walking through meth labs. It made me soulless. And my wife, she's rock solid, always been there. We've had our children in church. And I mean, I even led a choir in church as an atheist, just hiding it, lying, of course. But the whole time I was trying to search for signs and answers, and I come at this because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God showed Himself to me, and He made me understand how real that He really is, and so I lean on Him for the discernment. And part of this, me saying that, is because as I am going on this journey, I try to leave myself out of it, and who can we bring into the truth? Who can we share this with? And I think if you are approaching these kinds of things in that way, where you're not expecting anything, you will have so many more connections and people that you can share with, because it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about us, all of us, and
That's
where
right.
are we moving forward? How are we safeguarding humanity and everything that the devil throws at us? And I mean, I praise God that he's allowed me this opportunity, right? And he didn't give up on me. But that's where we move forward as we continue to connect. You know, I could have probably sat at home in my lazy chair, or I could have said, hey, I'm not coming down here today. I'm just going to pop up this camera. But, you know, it's worth it, all right?
Yeah.
It's worth it to be here and be with people and meeting new people and just continuing to move forward together. That is how. Strength in numbers, strength behind the shield of God. That's how we move forward regardless.
That's right. So having said that, Baron, if you watching, you're fired.
Oh, no. Baron is, man, Baron better not be going anywhere. All right, we need 100 more Barons out there.
Yeah. So this it speaks to what you said, man. That's so important. And the reason why I wanted to do this show is because the way you get to know people is you have to listen at them from an aspect and analyze the way that they think. What do they believe? You know, go and get your own assessment of a person. Don't just listen to somebody saying, "Oh, don't go over there and talk to Roy because of whatever reason." We got to get out of this high school mentality. Get to know people, and yes, there'll be accountability. And I expect and respect these two gentlemen, Baron as well, and many other people. People call me all the time with saying, you know, my wife is my biggest critic, y'all. She probably upstairs
All of our
rolling her eyes about something I said on the show today. But listen, it's always welcome. But there's that element of humility again, and we have to be able to do that. And I expect, because me and Roy always talk, he'd say, hey man, we have to hold each other accountable.
That's right.
But you do that by people that you respect, and you get to know people. And maybe that person was off on a few things, and you'll be able to go to him or say, hey, Antonio, I thought that last show was great, but you know, this part you said, you know, maybe I would have said it like this or whatever. And then it's still up to me to make a decision and change what I'm doing. But we can't go into this closed book, because if we roll like that, then how do we improve? How do we grow?
Right.
You know, so I think that this conversation today was very, very, very important. And so we can encourage people to get to know one another, know what a man of honor is.
Yeah.
If you're a man, be one, you know.
And I'd like to add to that. I started in the 2A movement. It was in the early, you know, the 2017, went through all this. We're here now. I have met more great people, more men of honor, more patriots, more God-fearing people that are now in my life than ever before. And I can tell you guys, Georgia has got some of the best people in it that I've ever seen. We are a force to be reckoned with. And you said it earlier, they just thought that we would just quit and give up and just go back to the lazy boy, and we didn't. And we've got so many people out there, men of honor, women of honor, that are just fighting tooth and nail to fix everything that is wrong. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I really wouldn't.
That's awesome. And I would just want to highlight one thing you mentioned earlier, Roy, about you talking about walking away from the church and being atheist. I had a similar experience in my early 20s where I was just fed up with church specifically, not necessarily maybe Jesus or God, but I was just fed up with it. So I just walked away. And I think my oldest daughter now at that point was maybe 1 or 2 or I don't know, even 3. But at the end of the day, you know, the more you do your own research and digging, you'll have to learn on your own, but there's a sense of humility, right? So I read some books. I think there's Case for Creator, Case for Jesus, things like that. But I ended up going back to the church, and then, you know, obviously having humility and saying, okay, I was at the wrong church.
There you go.
Right? And here's
Me and my wife can attest to that.
Here's the thing to that is Christians generally have a horrible reputation. Horrible. Because they don't practice what is written or preached, right? And just to sum it up very quickly, Jesus hung out with drunkards, the lame, prostitutes, and worst of all, tax collectors. Okay? He was looked at very curiously by the religious leaders at the time, saying, "You're unclean. How are you hanging out with these people who have no standards, no morals?" But he was there helping the people who needed the help the most.
That's right.
And if people consider themselves a follower of Jesus, to Roy's point, you got to sit down and listen, right? Where are people at? Where can you add value? Where can you help? And I think that goes back to being a man of honor, trying to extend an olive branch to help uplift others versus sit there and put them down.
I agree.
That's right.
Well said.
That's right. So let me do an announcement for a patriot by the name of, you guys may recognize this. How can I get this on the screen? Oh, okay. Let me see if I can do it like this. Mallory Staples, one of the Georgia freedom fighters that we have, and we have quite a few. How about Colton Moore? I mean, a guy who has almost 100% conservative voting record at the Georgia legislature.
That's right.
Wow.
That's my senator.
How awesome is that? And he was one of the first ones that came. I was texting with Colton. Was that yesterday? Yeah, I was texting him yesterday. But I mean, it's just, that's amazing.
That's
we need.
uncommon.
I know we need like.
He's a stalwart.
Can we get more Colton Moores? I mean,
We're trying. Michael Cargiulio, he's in Gwinnett County. He's going to be running. He was Colton Moore's campaign manager. And
Whoa.
so I've got him. We're setting up an interview. I had him release a speech. We need 150 Colton Moores.
Okay.
And
all right, so
I'm good friends with Colton.
This is what we need to do. We need to get, and I think I might have talked to Colton about either interviewing him.
Yes.
We need to do like a mega show. We need to do Men of Honor, and the subtitle need to be Divided by Truth.
Sure. And think
Okay.
about Colton for a second. How young he is. He was already in the House of Representatives. He came back up into the Senate. He beat one of the biggest, senators with the corner office who had everything, who is now a lobbyist in this state, who for
That
20
figures.
years sat on the throne, and then they persecuted Colton completely. They took all of his voting, rights away just for standing on the truth. I mean, we've got a huge problem in this state with corruption, and it's very sad that maybe Charlize Byrd, Colton Moore are one of the only few that have such great voting records that are standing on these rocks. And we just went through a primary in May where most of the incumbents are going right back in. This is concerning to me. We should have had a lot more new people, new faces we're heading into November, and we didn't. So Georgia, we've got to wake up and realize what's at stake.
So I think at the heart of this, with what the SEB Big Three did with that reconciliation rule, we need that to stick.
100%.
If we can get that to stick, then we have a better mechanism in place to verify the vote. And so we've got to get to work and get the proper messaging out. And with Colton Moore and many others, Mallory Staples, I hate to name names because I don't name everybody. Georgia Freedom Caucus, let them lead the way. And we've got to get more people in there like Colton.
Absolutely.
We have to do it. We have to take down this establishment in Georgia. And this is the thing. If you're pro-Georgian, America first person that's in the Georgia, we don't have a problem with you. We're not, we want to support people. We don't want to, quote, go after people. But this is not an attack. This is an accountability thing. And we have a job to hold our representatives accountable. And we will be getting more involved on what's going on at the Georgia legislature, because getting Trump elected, that's not enough. We got to go a step further and make sure that the right laws and everything that's being passed. And this is why the state election board is having so many issues. The legislature should have taken care of this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we're supposed to be fighting against the ethos and the ideology of Democrats, right? The Democrats right now, they've got their hands behind their head. They're propped up on a chair because we're fighting Republicans. We have a Republican governor of this state, that it's even mentioned that he's referring to his attorney general about removing people from the SEB because they overruled a rule.
Yeah.
To me, and I'm gonna be tame here, but to me, there's criminality involved as far as I'm concerned in something like that. How on earth can we get more Colton Moores in when you've got that kind of Republican establishment in this state? It's beyond me. I mean, it is. I was livid when that came out, that he was actually trying to figure out how he can remove these three. And like I said, I'm going to hold back. But this is crazy. I mean, this is we the people. I mean, that's
no. You can't. Wait a minute. You can't say nothing about Brian Kemp.
Oh, Lord.
You can't say nothing about Kemp because that's going to cost you the election
in
November.
Like,
Y'all didn't know that?
Oh, yeah.
That's going to cost. No, what's going to cost us the election is not holding people accountable. And they have blocked and did everything that they could to not have the right measures in place for this coming election. And that's why he was called out a few weeks ago. I mean, come on. We've watched President Trump congratulate people. He is a builder. Now, if he was a demolition guy for a living, then I might say, maybe he kind of got his wires crossed up in his head, and that's what he needed to tear down something, and he's gotten out of the business, so he went after the good. No, he likes to build people up, man.
Well, I'm sure you've been told this. I've been told this. I've been doing this seriously for about a year and a half now, maybe close to 2 years, and I've been told you're focusing on the wrong things. We got to focus on winning. It's always come back to that. People have told me behind the scenes, we got to focus on winning.
Yeah, because elections is about the future. You didn't know that?
Yeah, and let me tell you something. If I have to choose winning, which means voting for people that are blatantly not for me, blatantly for this global corporatocracy, that are blatant for dismantling my state and turning it into something that is not even worth living in, I will gladly stand on the rock and lose, because it is not about winning to me. It's about changing or reverting back to what's already there. The law.
It's about victory, and that's how we win elections.
I held my nose and voted for the last time. I will not do it. If that costs me notoriety or whatever, I don't care.
And that's why
holding my nose again.
I already said I would not be voting for Brian Kemp for Senate. It's not going to happen. I done seen enough.
It will absolutely not happen.
I've seen enough. This guy has not led the state. Oh, he kept the thing open. You have to look at the things that he's not doing or done. And then he grabbed up the inspector general that Bob Couvert sent the election materials to from 2020. I guess all the evidence. And then Scott McAfee was the inspector general. Then Kemp hires him, appoints him as a judge, and he end up with the case down in Georgia. I mean, come on, man.
Well, you go back and just look at where these people in their positions were and things that have happened and how they've been able to manipulate the system.
Look at the chess pieces on the board.
Exactly. There's certain people that you can write off. And, Derek Grayson spoke at the Madison Forum, Cliff's Edge, and said it well. It's time to start naming names. Now, that doesn't mean we just go out and finger point at anything we don't like, but I have no bones in saying that Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger have done more damage to our Republican Party and our state of Georgia than probably any Democrat's ever been able to do with Republican legislature.
I know. Let's not leave out the inactions of the Attorney General.
Oh, Chris Carr? Sure.
Let's not leave out Gabe Sterling, who liked the intro to the Olympics. By the way, I thought that was strange. Wow. Go look on his Twitter feed.
Which the intro to the Olympics was actually better than the DNC this last summer. So that tells you anything. But my gosh, I mean, this is where we're at, and we are supposed to take all of this seriously. Like, we're supposed to just be like, oh yeah, this is the way it goes. No, we're not buying it. We're not going away. This is not business as usual anymore.
No. We not going for it this time.
I'll take a couple steps back. You mentioned Judge McAfee out there in Fulton County. And I know the show topic today is Men of Honor, which he's certainly questionable in my book. When you talk about holding people accountable, he had the authority and the power to do so in that particular case.
Yes.
Right? And what baffles me is that was a very public case, right? So if you have a DA, right, who brought in a man that she was having relations with who at that time was married, brought him in, who had no experience with a case this size, and gave him a contract from Fulton County.
Yes.
Now, where'd this money from Fulton County come from? Good old taxpayers of Fulton County.
Money.
There should be tens of thousands of people that are upset
Yes.
about that. And we talk about the content of people's character. That's what you said. But McAfee is more concerned about one thing, him being reelected again
There you go.
in that position, in that heavily Democratic zone. And he knew, and again, I'm not in the guy's mind, but looking at how it plays out, had he dismissed her from that, he would have felt he would have had a big uphill battle trying to get reelected with that base again.
Sure.
So he's worried about his own self-interest and saying, let me protect myself re-election, and saying, hey, guys, I gave this person a pass.
Yep.
Please elect me again to be judge, instead of doing the right thing and saying you have squandered taxpayer dollars,
Yes.
which you personally benefited from by getting vacations and trips from the person you got the contract to. Then you come back to court and tell us you paid him back in cash, but there's no records of withdrawals, deposits on either side. So now you're perjuring in court. There's so many things he could have done, but as a coward, he chose to walk the other way.
Yeah, but
Sure.
it goes back to what you said, putting the prioritizing others. That's why you serve.
That's
Correct.
supposed to be.
Public servant.
That's what you take an oath to do. But guess what? That almighty dollar and everybody's controlled and now you got up in the club and you got your little key lime pie and you're at the table and it's like, oh, we won't care about all these
Your-
other
your
people.
wine and
you know?
cheese.
Exactly. It's ridiculous to me.
That is wild.
But that's the psychology.
So
It's
wait,
the
let-
human nature, right?
Let me do this announcement for
Sure.
Mallory right quick. So October 1st, this will be hosted by MAGA. MAGA Delivering the Truth with retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. This will take place at the Boathouse at Lake Lanier Olympic Park. That's 3105 Clarks Bridge Road in Gainesville, Georgia. So the VIP access will be at 3:30 that day. The doors open at 4 p.m. They'll have a speaker series, and dinner begins at 5:30 p.m. The attire is casual business. Andrew Clyde will also be speaking, and Sheila Holmes. And they're going to be featuring Michael Flynn. That's October 1st, 2024. It's hosted by MAGA and the Georgia Freedom Caucus. Shout out to Mallory Staples. She sent me that. And make sure you guys participate in that.
Nice.
So, I don't know. We might have to go up there and check that out. I don't know,
Yeah.
guys.
It might be worth it.
It might be.
Weather will be
We'll
good
see.
October 1st.
That's right.
Oh yeah. So I know justice is it. Well, everybody's got to run today. So what's standard usually when we have war room guests? My wife, she loves to cook and bake and everything and serve others. That's just her thing. And we're grateful and blessed to have her and that she wants to do that because she does it for us as a family all the time. So I don't know what kind of cookies she baked upstairs, guys, but
We'll find
she's
out.
got.
We will find out.
Let me see. Let me name out.
That's
She's
what
got.
sold me to come down here.
She
You said,
did
"Wanna do the
macaroni."
show? I said, "Is your wife cooking?" Yep. All right, I'm on my way.
So she did homemade macaroni and cheese,
Ooh, nice.
Pasta salad. I'm gonna throw some burgers on the grill. We got grass-fed organic beef that we got from a farm out here. And shout out to Geary Farms.
Keep
They
it local.
they do a
That's right.
great job over there. So we're trying to put together the ads and the promo for them. So you'll be seeing their stuff on War Room soon. But we're gonna hang out and fellowship. You know, I'm so happy to be able to do that with two other men of honor. Barron wasn't able to make it out here today, so I guess we'll eat a burger for him. What you think?
Oh, we can
Sign me
definitely do that.
Yeah. So, and if you guys hadn't seen the hit on Alex Jones, he asked me to host an hour, and it was just absolutely incredible. Alex Jones is real, guys.
Yep.
Don't believe all this stuff that you see going across the news. He is a very giving person from my experience, just a little time that we've had. And he tries to platform other people. Like he said before I came on, Jack Posobiec, who's doing very well now. I guess Jack called into the show kind of just like I did. And you know, he sent Jack some equipment, and look at what Jack Pasovic's doing now.
I know.
I mean, that is just so awesome. But hey, it goes back to letting God provide your increase. You don't have any pressure on you. I mean, you just want to help other people, and you want to further the cause. It keeps the focus off of yourself as an individual, and it's just better that way. And it don't turn you into a different person, because it's like when you start worrying about numbers and stuff, it's like, okay, let me see how many small town underground got, how many clicks they got last week versus, man, I'm not getting into, you know, I'm not hanging out with people like that, man.
Nope. Not at
you know,
all.
we're here to help each other do the right thing and hold each other accountable.
That's right.
And, you know, try to save our nation. And at the end of the day, if we're going to go off the cliff, and I'm start saying this on most of my shows, then we got to have our hand around the throat of evil and the new world order. So that's what we're here to do. And I believe I'm surrounded by some guys that'll help hold me accountable, whatever my wife don't remember to tell me to do. But this has been a great show, and I'm serious. We're gonna try to put that together with Colton, and try to get them to come to the studio, and we'll hang out a little while. We'll cook, eat.
Yeah, Michael's from here, you know, and Colton, he's not too far away. He's been busy. He's been out of the country, and
I know he's moving
back into it. And can I?
Oh yeah, the big event. Go ahead and plug that.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find the flyer.
Sure.
Real quick.
I do want to plug one thing. Antonio's going to be there with us, but on Saturday, September the 7th, here in Loganville, Georgia, at Lucretia Hughes' house, we're having the big event, and it's a free event. And man, we've got Judge Joe Brown is going to be there. Derek Gibson is going to be there. Derek Grayson from the Cliff's Edge. Jerry Parrish, Lucretia, Antonio. We're going to be doing music. Reagan Box. There's going to be a lot of people there. Tori Branham is going to be there. We've got so many things lined up. I think we're about confirmed to have the Trump bus back. We've got several people, several booths that are going to be there, and people are asking me, oh, what's this going to be? This is going to be a day of fellowship. If you want to meet honorable people, honorable men and women, and you can come out, bring your sling chair out there, have a great time, be entertained. You'll be able to connect with everybody. But this is going to be huge, and so Antonio is going to be singing. We're having a lot of people performing and just being out there and having a great time. So please consider making plans to come out there and be with us, man. We'll have tents and chairs, and just come on out and have a good time. So, all
right. So I guess that you got anything? Oh, tell people how to follow you too, Roy, and then we'll throw it to Justice. I know we got the tags up, but tell people how to follow you.
Small Town Underground. I'm on most big, Telegram, Rumble, X, Facebook has changed to my regular name. We're trying to get verified over there. We do a live stream once a week, every Wednesday night, starting at 9 p.m. And I do special streams throughout the week whenever we can. And anybody out there that would like to donate, you can go to givesendgo.com/Small Town Underground. It's the only place that I'm taking donations other than in person. And every penny goes to the show. So
there it is. All right, Justice, what you got? Let the people know how to follow you.
I have all my social medias under Justice for Gwinnett. My email address is justiceforgwinnett@gmail.com. That's the easy way to get a hold of me. It's either socials or the emails. I respond usually every single night before I go to bed to anybody who's emailed me about things they have on their mind or questions they have for me. So that's the easy way to get a hold of me.
All right. Excellent show, guys. Men of honor. So we'll try to keep this, and I guess just do some subtitles and stuff, because we have to engage the culture, and men are a key part of that. So thank you guys for tuning in. We just had an absolute incredible time today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys have any news or anything that we're missing, it could be local or national. Local is now national. So we have to make sure that we're educating each other. And I'm not the expert, and so a lot of times we get information, we're crowdsourced, and if you can send us something, make sure you guys do just that. And we'll use the InfoWars tag today. The answer to 1984 is 1776. We'll see y'all in the next one.
War Room, Gwinnett County. The people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County. The people's voice.